Imagine driving with your 3-year-old child in the back seat, and as you pass by a cemetery, your toddler, who had been happily singing, abruptly stops, points to the cemetery, and exclaims, "Look at all these people." You turn to look, but you don't see a soul. Many horrifying events have occurred without a clear explanation as how they happened. Could they be ascribed to mysteries or mere coincidence? Well, that's left for you to decide. If you're afraid of dark nights, ghosts, or monsters, then perhaps you should stop right now, because we're about to delve into the world of the paranormal, and these tales are not for the faint of heart. Stay tuned as we take you on a countdown of 10 paranormal events. Starting off our list is one of the scariest ghost sightings in recorded history. It's a cliche hearing people say they saw a ghost by the cemetery. I mean, ghost sightings in cemeteries is an age-long phenomenon. However, when it's being reported by your toddler, it brings a different kind of horror altogether. Jeff, a resident of Dayton, Ohio, was driving with his 3-year-old son Miles in the back seat when they passed by a cemetery. It was a modest cemetery with only flowers and small plaques. As they drove by, his toddler, who had been happily singing, abruptly stopped, pointed to the cemetery and exclaimed, "Look at all those people." Jeff turned to look, but didn't see a soul. Confused, he asked Miles what he was talking about. "All those people over there," his son replied. "There sure are lots of grandmas." Chills ran down his spine, and he asked his son what the people were doing. "They're all standing there, looking down at the grass," Miles said. Completely unsettled by the conversation, Jeff sped up and drove home. Later that same day, his young son was watching TV when he turned to him and said, "You know, they weren't alive." Thinking Miles was referring to the cartoon, Jeff asked what he meant. "Those people we saw, they were all dead," his son replied. Now imagine yourself seeing a ghost in a cemetery, basement, or any other creepy place. Just at this time, the ghost is not in human form. Next on the list is a true story that'll certainly make you believe that humans are not the only ones that return after they've died. Animals do too. Here's the story of Cricket, a dog who came back to say goodbye. Sarah from Lancaster, Ohio, tells the story of her childhood dog, Cricket, who, according to Sarah, was a pretty unhappy dog. She was super cranky. She only liked Grandma, Sarah says. She didn't seem like she felt well. Still, the family loved their dog and was devastated when the pup ran out into the road and was struck and killed by a passing car as they were preparing to leave on a family vacation. It was very sad, very upsetting, especially for me being a child. My grandmother was there. She loved Cricket, and Cricket loved her. They had this special relationship that none of us had. Despite the loss, the family had prepaid for their vacation, and not having a lot of money, decided to still go, leaving Cricket with an aunt who offered to take care of the necessary details. Upon arriving at the hotel where they were staying, Sarah said the family was melancholy and sad over the tragedy. They went to bed, and in the middle of the night she woke up, not sure why she did, sat up in bed and looked down, and on the floor was Cricket, a full-body apparition of her, says Sarah. She looked so happy. She looked like a different dog. She was jumping around. All that crankiness and all that unhappiness she had was gone. It was like she was coming to tell me that she was okay. It was the clearest apparition. I've never seen an apparition again. It was the first and only time, Sarah said, as she told her mother in the morning what she had seen, and her mom dismissed it as her middle school brain just trying to make sense of the loss. "I guess that's possible," says Sarah, "but to this day, I can still envision Cricket in that moment. I've never forgotten that image." Have you ever seen a ghost before? Share your experiences in the comments below as we continue. On spot 8, we have students who felt they were safe with their teacher. Unfortunately, the reverse was the case. Friends noticed that Danielle Harkins, a 35-year-old school teacher near St. Petersburg, Florida, started acting strangely in June of 2012, developing an interest in demonic rituals. Soon after, she was arrested for the abuse of 7 of her former students. Danielle Harkins told the kids they needed to rid their bodies of demons as the group gathered before dusk Saturday around a small fire near the St. Petersburg Pier. There, she told the students to cut their skin to let the evil spirits out. Then, they needed to burn the wounds to ensure that those spirits would not return. When Harkins held a lighter to one teen's hand, wind blew the flame out. This prompted her to douse his hand in perfume before setting it on fire. Another teen was cut on the neck with a broken bottle, and Harkins used a flame to heat a small key, which she then used to cauterize the wound. These children suffered from severe injuries by one person outside their homes who they felt so safe with. Speaking of homes, what will you do if your home becomes your worst nightmare? Where else can one be safe if not in their own homes? But what happens when there is a deadly stalker who sees your every move, including every activity you do in your house? If you ask me, it doesn't get any creepier than this. In 2007, the Kuykendalls and a few other families reported a series of cell phone calls to their homes with terrifyingly specific death threats. The identified callers knew exactly what the families were doing and what they were wearing. The families say the calls come in at odd hours of the night, threatening to kill their children, their pets, and grandparents. Voicemails arrive, playing recordings of their private conversations, including one with a local policeman. The caller knows what they're wearing and what they're doing. So many attempts were made to stop the callers, but all proved to be futile. This went on with the Kuykendall family for months, who reported a caller with a scratchy voice threatening to slit their throats. The most scary part was that when they tried to find the culprit, the calls were traced back to the Kuykendalls' own phones, even when they were turned off. It got worse. The Kuykendalls and two other families believed the callers were using their cell phones to spy on them. Can it get any creepier? Yes, it can. And as a matter of fact, the scare on our next event will certainly make you decide if you want to still continue watching or not. But before we move on, please hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell just in case you decide not to continue watching. On spot number 6 is about an unexpected passenger. In the 1990s, Julie, a resident of Portland, Oregon, was driving out of the city to meet friends when she found herself in traffic. The 18-year-old soon discovered that the cause of the slowdown was due to a dreadful car crash, and with her horror, as she passed the scene, she realized that somebody had died. A moment later, there's a woman sitting in her passenger seat. Though it sounds crazy, Julie said that a woman dressed in work clothes was seated next to her, and despite being in complete shock, the woman in passenger seat was even more freaked out. She looked like somebody who had just ended up in somebody else's car, Julie says of the incident. Panicked, the woman demanded to know how she got there and who Julie was. It was then that Julie noticed the woman had an unearthly quality about her and realized that whoever she had passed on the side of the road was somehow in the car with her. "Ma'am, you need to calm down. My name is Julie and I'm here to help," she says she told a stranger. Julie later went on to explain to the woman that she had been in a car accident and somehow ended up in her passenger seat. The woman was stricken. At that exact minute, they passed a clearing in the trees. With some encouragement from Julie, the woman peacefully walked towards the sun, then disappeared. In completely disbelief, Julie pulled over and convinced herself she had imagined the whole thing. Several days later, however, a story came on the news about a trucker injured in a car accident. Before they finished, they threw a picture up of the woman that was in my car and explained that she passed away in the accident. It was unbelievable. Speaking of unbelievable, imagine yourself being one of the characters in the horror movie Cannibals, only that this time it's real life. Coming in at number 5 is one who derives joy in eating human flesh. In 1974, 24-year-old Waco University student ICI Sagawa followed a German woman to her home in Tokyo, Japan, broke into her apartment while she was sleeping, and attempted to cut a piece of flesh off of her body. Fortunately, she woke up and fought him, and he was later captured by the police. He was mistakenly charged with attempted rape, and his wealthy father paid the victim a settlement outside of court to have the charges dropped. 7 years later, in 1981, he committed a murder in France, shooting and eating a fellow university student, Rene Hartveld. ICI creepily documented the entire experience with photographs, and he was captured by authorities once again while attempting to dump the rest of her body in Bois de Boulogne Lake. He was deported back to Japan and committed to a mental institute. It is true, bad habits don't die young. Nevertheless, it's not only habits that don't die young, beliefs and facts don't die at all. And our next event will certainly make you question if demons actually exist. On our number 4 spot is a story about a young man possessed by a deadly demon. In August 2016 in North London, 26-year-old Kennedy Ife began acting strange and aggressive following a pain in his throat. He reportedly bit his father, threatened to cut off his own penis, and complained of a python or a snake inside of him before his family restrained him to a bed with cable ties and excessive force. The family then set about attempting to cure Kennedy through restraint and prayer over the next 3 days. Kennedy was bound to his bed for 3 days without medical attention when his brother called emergency services, explaining that Kennedy was complaining of dehydration. He appeared to have developed breathing issues and was pronounced dead at 10:17 a.m. All 7 of Kennedy's family members were accused of manslaughter, false imprisonment, and causing or allowing the death of a vulnerable adult. But a post-mortem examination revealed that over 60 wounds, including a possible bite on Kennedy's body, and his father, Kenneth Ive, along with 4 of his brothers, sustained injuries as well. Could it really be the demons doing? Well, we wouldn't know, would we? Be careful of what lurks on your lawn in the middle of the night. Coming in at number 3 is a story of one of the scariest monsters in recorded history. In 1973, a man in Enfield, Illinois said he saw a weird little creature lurking in his yard. Henry McDaniel said that one night when he came outside his house, having heard some creeping sounds, only for him to see a mysterious creature. He described the creature saying it had 3 legs on it, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink eyes as big as flashlights. With great terror and fright, he quickly returned to his house and immediately informed the police. Later, the police found scratches on the screen door and footprints that looked like a dog's, but with 6 toes. But the creature was nowhere to be found. Henry believes if they do find it, they will find more than one, and they won't be from this planet. Our number 2 spot is a story of a young lady who died so young and in a mysterious way. Eliza Lamb was last seen on January 31st, 2013, in the lobby of the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was vacationing through the West Coast, documenting a trip on her blog and checking in with her parents every day. On January 31st, those calls stopped. Lamb had vanished. Soon the police were involved and her parents arrived to help with the search. That February, a video was released, the elevator surveillance footage of Lamb before her disappearance. The footage shows Lamb behaving strangely in the elevator, appearing to talk with invisible people, peering around the corner of the door, crouching in the corner, and opening and closing the door. But what exactly is going on in this video raises more questions than answers. Theories range from psychotic episodes to demonic possession. Around that time, hotel guests started seeing weird things happen with the Cecil Hotel water supply, like the water tasted very bad, and when you turn on the tap, black water will first rush out. After a week, things became the way that they were. On the morning of February 19th, a hotel employee climbed onto the roof and used a ladder to investigate the hotel's water storage tanks. They found the decomposing naked body of Lamb, whose personal items were found nearby. After an autopsy, her death was labeled accidental. Was that really what happened? The tank has a metal latch that can be opened, but the access to the roof is secured with an alarm and a lock. The single-room occupancy hotel has an unusual history. Night stalker Richard Ramirez, who was found guilty of 14 slayings in the 1980s, lived on the 14th floor for several months in 1985. An international serial killer, Jack Unterweger, is suspected of murdering 3 prostitutes during the time he lived there in 1991. He killed himself in jail in 1994. In 1962, a female occupant jumped out of one of the hotel's windows, killing herself and a pedestrian on whom she landed. Could this past be related to Eliza's death? Thank you for not going anywhere as we reveal our number 1 spot. The countdown ends with a teenager who returned home to a horrifying sight. In September of 2014, a Utah teen returned to his home to find his parents and 3 siblings dead. In a notebook, a to-do list had been scribbled on the pages. The list looked as if his parents were ready to go on vacation. Items such as feed the pets and find somebody to watch the house were written. It appeared to be a murder-suicide, but there is no suicide note, no prior indication that they would do this, no explanation. Nobody could figure out why 2 parents would kill themselves and 3 of their 4 children. For a year, No one knew exactly what happened to the family or what would drive the parents to do something so unthinkable. A few weeks later, there were chilling details of what happened. The family members said the parents were driven by a belief that an apocalypse was coming. They further revealed that the parents were worried about the evil in the world and wanted to escape a pending apocalypse, but most assumed they just wanted to move somewhere off-grid. However, they did more than moving somewhere off the grid. Are you still doubting mysteries and demons? I would suggest you don't, because there are incidents that have happened without any scientific explanation. Watch our earlier video on skinwalker sightings to understand exactly what I mean. Thank you, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more chilling and horrifying stories.